going to read to you a little bit of Psalm 90, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. O Lord, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust. You decreed, return you mortals, for in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday that is past. Like a watch of the night, you engulf us in sleep. At daybreak, we are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak, it flourishes anew. By dusk, it withers and dries up. Teach us to count our days rightly, that we may obtain a wise heart. Turn, O Lord, how long? Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. May the favor of the Lord our God be upon us. Let the work of our hands prosper. O prosper the work of our hands. So this is Psalm 90. We've got 150 Psalms in the Tanakh. This one, number 90, is ascribed to Moses, as you heard in the first line. So we learn from the revered medieval Jewish scholar Rashi, France, the end of the 11th century. We hear from Rashi that this last pasuk of the psalm, may the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, let the work of our hands prosper, O prosper the work of our hands. We learn that these words are the blessing that I just read from the Torah. So in the sentence that I read, and when Moses saw that he had performed all the tasks as Adonai had commanded, so they had done, Moses blessed them. This, Rashi says, based on earlier rabbinic interpretation, is the blessing that Moses was giving the Israelites at this time in the book of Exodus. So, does Moses bless the people of Israel a lot? No, if you don't remember it, that's probably because it doesn't happen often. There's a big bit of it at the end of Deuteronomy, right before he says goodbye to the Israelites and they enter the promised land and leave him behind. But other than that, not a lot of blessing. So this is worthy of note. So why, at this point in the Torah, is Moses blessing the people of Israel? So what have we been talking about? We have been talking about building the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which houses the tablets of the covenant. We have been reading about this for weeks. One of my favorite students in my Torah class this week asked, why is Torah so repetitive? And the answer is a millionfold, but my answer today is that the Torah is a narrative, but it's not always a narrative. Sometimes it's an inventory, or a census, or a statistical summary, or a financial summary, or a packing list. It's the diary of a family following generations of people and their journeys with blueprints of their house stuffed in, with their tax reports, the names of everyone who helped them move, what they like to eat, what they packed when they went camping. The Torah is repetitive, one, because it's not a narrative, and the way we think about it, and it's not a narrative the way we think about it today. But the second reason could be because God had a reason. Crazy idea. So God's revelation on Mount Sinai happened a couple weeks ago. This is a great narrative story, right? You're hanging on every word. It's very dramatic. It's very loud. There's a lot of feeling. The Israelites are so overwhelmed, they can't contain themselves. And at the first opportunity, they build a golden calf and they pray to it. Okay? That's how overwhelming this narrative is. So, what happens next? detailed instruction about what to do next, about building the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And this list, these instructions, appear again and again in different guises. The Israelites are overwhelmed by God's revelation and expectation. So God gives them the blessing of putting them to work, giving them something practical to do to make sense of the new conditions of their world, to allow them to feel a sense of control and order, to remind them that even though their world is upside down, they can still put one foot in front of the other. So God instructs Moses, and Moses instructs the people. God identifies who will implement the plan and how. The people generously assemble materials. The plan is implemented. Then Moses bestows his blessing. When everyone has contributed a bit of themselves and the task is done, right before Moses sets up the tabernacle, puts the tablets of the covenant in the ark, gets the high priest in his new vestments so they can sacrifice to God, then, right before then, is when Moses bestows his blessing. This act of creating the tabernacle as a community brings the children of Israel together during a very overwhelming time. You note they do not complain at all while they are in the process of building the tabernacle. You can check me on that. After everything was done, the last Pasukim, the last verses of Exodus read, "When Moses had finished the work, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of Adonai filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled upon it, and the presence of Adonai filled the tabernacle. When the cloud lifted, the Israelites would set out on their various journeys. But if the cloud did not lift, they would not set out until such time as it did lift. For over the tabernacle, a cloud of Adonai rested by day, and fire would appear in it by night, in the view of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys." God comes to be manifest in the community after this work is done and leads them both by day and by night. Friends, here at the Santa Monica Synagogue, we have had our own overwhelming revelation. We are moving. Many of us are sad and angry and disbelieving. It's hard because many of the decisions that will ground us have yet to be made. Even though we are moving forward, our feet are not on solid ground just yet. But with God's help, with the board's help, with the congregation's help, within a month, we will have clarity on our next steps. We will then have our own Mishkan to build. We will have our own job to do. It will require an inventory. It will require a census and many, many lists. Thank you, Sunshine Richmond. It will require us all to come together and support Sunshine Richmond so that we can all contribute what we can. Soon we will move from the existential discomfort that we feel right now into the practical things that we can do to bring our home and grow it in a new space. I believe in this work we will soon be doing together. I believe in the beauty of the tabernacle we will create. May God bless the work of our hands. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.